Hey, well, good morning. It is Sergeant Q, and it is the Saturday after Thanksgiving. And last night was pretty difficult for me, actually. As you guys know, or maybe don't know, I struggle with PTSD. I was diagnosed several years ago, and I was rated by the VA at 100% disabled. Now, I could have just taken my check every month and sat at home and played video games and watched Netflix, but it just wasn't me. I wanted to continue to build my business and grow it and scale it, which I have. I've started 2 other businesses and travel around the world. I speak and teach on mental health, but it doesn't mean that I don't still struggle with it. And last night was a great example of me struggling with mental health. About 5 minutes after 2 a.m., I woke up to the sound of gunshots. 6 or 8 rounds being discharged, high caliber rifle rounds from what I could tell. Just seemed to know what those sound like. But it was off in the distance. It wasn't near, but it wasn't far away either. And about halfway through those rounds being discharged, I started to become fully aware of what was happening. And then I heard a huge explosion, which sounded pretty close. I'd say the gunshots and the explosion were probably within a quarter mile of my house, if not closer. But what really set it off was that the explosion shook my house. Like I could feel the shockwave rattle inside my house, which told me that it was pretty close. So instantly, my brain goes into fight or flight mode, and I start trying to discern where the sounds are coming from and what's causing them. All of this stuff is happening within an instant. And my wife wakes up, tell her, hey, those are gunshots, rifle rounds, and an explosion. And so then I was very quiet, and I wanted to hear what was coming next. I didn't want to move or do anything until I could see what was coming next. And I heard nothing. And the whole time, my mind is spinning up all of these things that could possibly be happening. Terrorist attack, one of my neighbors being attacked, did somebody land troops on our shores? All of these things are going through my mind. And at the same time, all of these past memories from being in Iraq are now flooding into my brain. And I can feel the cortisol and adrenaline start to course through my body. It felt like a freight train hitting my veins. And I instantly knew that I was in trouble. When my mind gets into that PTSD mode, I become very singularly focused. And I can start to build up other scenarios in my mind that aren't happening, aren't reality. And I kind of get detached from reality when I get stuck into that subconscious loop of memories, and I start building out things that could possibly happen. So as I'm feeling that cortisol push through my veins like a freight train, I have to stop, look, and listen. So in the past, when this would happen, I would become very hypervigilant. I would have put on my full kit, I would have taken my rifle, and I would have patrolled my property. And I would have done that all night, coming in the house from time to time, sitting, waiting, listening to the news, listening to the scanner, trying to see what was happening, what was going on. Was there an immediate threat? Am I in danger? Do I need to make a hasty egress out of the area? All of these things would have been happening. That's how I used to operate. I'd be checking door locks, checking the perimeter, moving the vehicles to block the driveway, all sorts of things. Because that made me feel safe. But I've learned that that is not helpful. So in that moment, when I could feel that panic and fear caused by that cortisol and adrenaline, I had to stop, look, and listen. And this is a tool that I used in the military when I'd get to a danger crossing. Before we would cross a road or a river or an area where we could be exposed, we would stop, look, and listen. We'd stop what we were doing and become very silent and wait. We would look around at our surroundings. Did we see anything out of the ordinary? Was there an actual threat here, or do we just feel uncomfortable? Was there any signs of the enemy movement? Things of that nature. Then we would listen. We would listen to our bodies. What was our body telling us? Was there a deep gut feeling telling us don't go this way? And if there was, then we would move and cross at another area of the road, a different danger crossing. Stop, look, and listen is something I still use today with my PTSD. And that's what I used last night. In that instant, without even thinking about it, I stopped. I didn't panic. I didn't fly out of bed. I didn't grab my weapon and move outside. I stopped. I wanted to see what was coming next. I looked at my surroundings. I looked at the evidence that was there. What was fact and what was a perception? The perception was that I was under attack. But the fact of the matter was that there were 6 to 8 rounds discharged at 2:05 in the morning, followed by a large explosion. So what else could have caused that kind of drama in the middle of the night? Well, it was Friday night. We live in the country. It was Black Friday. So the odds are that the gunshots and ensuing explosion was not a terrorist attack or foreign troops on our soil, but was probably some redneck who bought some tannerite and bullets on Black Friday, had a couple beers, and decided to shoot this tannerite off in the middle of the night. Which makes sense because it took 6 to 8 rounds before we heard the explosion. So he probably had a couple beers, I imagine. Wasn't aiming too well. Took him a little bit to get on target because they were in rapid succession, which tells me that it wasn't a bolt action gun. You're not going to fire a bolt gun that quick. It's going to be a semi-automatic high caliber rifle. Maybe an AR-15, AK-47, AR-10, something of that nature. And it was relatively close. So it had to be one of my neighbors here in the neighborhood within a quarter mile of me. I live way out in the country. As you can see, there's woods behind me. So as I ran that through my brain, that scenario, it made a lot more sense than a terrorist attack or foreign troops on our soil or me being in an imminent danger. So I had to remind myself of that. Literally walk myself through that as if I was giving a soldier orders, relaying the facts of the matter to my subconscious brain that was starting to spin out of control, triggering the amygdala to release stress hormones so I could fight. And so this is kind of what it looked like. Last night, laying in bed, I reminded myself, I'm safe, I'm in my house. That was only 6 to 8 high caliber rifle rounds discharged and 1 explosion and nothing further, which means it's not a firefight, it's not an attack. And then I had to look at what could it possibly be? It could possibly be one of my neighbors just shooting off a rifle at night at a coyote, at a wolf, at a potential criminal trying to break into their property. But then the explosion was different. Again, that made me think tannerite, somebody having fun in the middle of the night, blowing something up, because there was no further action afterwards. No sirens, no helicopters, no exchange of other gunfire or explosions. So it was a single isolated incident that I experienced last night. And when I could reconcile that in my mind and repeat that to myself over and over again, reminding myself that I'm safe, I'm in my house, it's not a terrorist attack, it's probably just somebody shooting tannerite, it's not incoming mortars, it's not artillery hitting. I had to remind myself of all of those things so I didn't get into that fight or flight panic mode, hypervigilance and just completely derail myself. So I wanted to share that with you guys today, because sometimes you can just see my Instagram or my TikTok and think that I'm just always out here having fun, doing cool stuff, which I am. But I also still struggle with mental health and PTSD. And so all of the things that I teach you guys, all of the things that I tell you about, these techniques, the things in my book, the tools in TikTok and on my podcast, all of those things I still use on a regular basis. So I just wanted to share that with you guys today. If you're struggling, you have to take control of your subconscious mind. You have to take control of that fight or flight. Look at the facts. Stop, look, and listen. You have to get out of that emotional brain into the rational brain. And you can do it. I've trained myself how to do it. It's not easy, but it's worth it. It takes time to get good at it. So practice it. Next time that you're feeling uneasy, stop, look, and listen. Stop what you're doing, look at your surroundings, and listen to your body. All right, I'm starting Q, and I'm out.